The large doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a soft hiss. Ambassador Hyun-woo walked inside, his black shoes clicking on the smooth floor. He carried a simple datapad in his hands. Behind him, 2 other humans followed quietly. The chamber was huge. Hundreds of alien beings sat in curved rows, looking down at the center where Hyun-woo now stood. Their eyes, tentacles, and other sense organs all focused on him. The air felt thick with tension. Counselor Velthari of the Zentarian Empire leaned forward in her seat. Her crystal-like body caught the light and threw rainbow colors on the walls. She had been waiting for this moment for months. Finally, the troublesome humans would be gone. Hyun-woo looked up at the assembled aliens. His face showed no emotion. He had practiced this moment many times, but it still felt heavy in his chest. He pressed a button on his datapad. Honored members of the Galactic Council, he began, his voice clear and steady. I come before you today to deliver humanity's formal resignation from this body. A wave of satisfied murmurs swept through the chamber. Some aliens clicked their claws together. Others made high-pitched sounds that meant happiness in their languages. Velthari's crystalline face formed what looked like a smile. Hyun-woo continued reading from his pad. After careful consideration, the United Earth government has decided that our membership in this council no longer serves the best interests of humanity or galactic peace. The words were polite, but everyone knew what they really meant. The council had made it clear that humans were not welcome. Too many complaints, too many problems, too much fighting. In the viewing gallery above, Captain Dongmin watched through the thick glass. His uniform was neat and pressed, but his hands were tight fists. He had served the council for 15 years, fighting pirates and protecting trade routes. Now they were throwing his people away like garbage. Next to him sat Dr. So-young, one of the few humans who would stay behind. Her research on alien diseases was too important to abandon. She watched Hyun-woo with sad eyes. She knew this day would come, but it still hurt. Down in the chamber, Hyun-woo kept reading. Humanity thanks the Council for the opportunities we have shared. We wish you peace and prosperity in the years ahead. He set down the datapad and looked around the room one more time. Many aliens looked happy. A few looked worried. Most looked like they just wanted this to be over. Velthari stood up from her seat. Her voice rang out clear and sharp. The Council accepts humanity's resignation. We are sorry that our species could not find common ground. She was not sorry at all. Nobody in the chamber believed her words. The Council had voted 847 to 1 to kick humans out. Only the young representative from the Ether Collective had spoken for humanity. The charges against humans were long: building too many warships, expanding into space too fast, fighting wars. The Council said were unnecessary, breaking rules about how to handle conflicts. The list went on and on. But the real reason was simpler. Humans scared them. When pirates attacked innocent worlds, humans sent battleships. When alien empires threatened weaker species, humans sent marines. When the Council said a situation was hopeless, humans sent help anyway. Other species filed complaints. Humans were too violent, too quick to fight, too willing to ignore proper procedures when lives were at stake. The Council listened and agreed. Humans did not fit in their careful, peaceful galaxy. Hyun-woo picked up his datapad and walked toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the quiet chamber. The 2 humans behind him followed. At the door, he stopped and turned around one last time. There is one more thing, he said, his voice carrying across the room. We leave behind our early warning systems and monitoring stations as a gift to the Council. We hope you will use them well. Some aliens looked confused. Others nodded, politely. Velthari waved a crystal hand as if brushing away an annoying insect. The warning systems were old human technology anyway. The Council had better equipment. Up in the viewing gallery, Captain Dongmin stood up. It was time to go. His ship, the UES Harmony's End, waited at the orbital docks. It would be the last human military vessel to leave Council space. Dr. So Young touched his arm. "Are you sure about this?" she asked quietly. "You could stay. The medical research station needs security." Dongmin shook his head. "My crew chose to come with me. We stick together." It was true. When the evacuation order came, many humans had to choose. Stay and live under council rules, or leave with their people. Dongmin's crew voted to leave. So did thousands of others across council space. Some aliens chose to leave too. A few dozen scientists who worked with humans. Some traders who had human business partners. A handful of military officers who respected human fighting methods. They would be exiles now, cut off from their homeworlds. Hours later, Dongmin stood on the bridge of his ship. Around him, his crew worked at their stations. Half were human. The other half were aliens who had chosen exile. They all wore the same uniform now. "Captain," called his navigation officer, a young woman named Haye Jin. "The last transport is clear of council space. All ships report ready for jump." Dongmin looked at the main screen. It showed dozens of human ships floating in the dark between stars. Cargo vessels full of families, science ships packed with research equipment, warships escorting them all to safety. Behind them, council space looked peaceful. Space stations glowed with soft lights. Trade ships moved along safe routes. Everything looked calm and ordered. "Sir?" Hyejin asked. "Should we jump?" Dongmin felt a cold worry in his stomach. Something was wrong about all this. The humans were not leaving because they wanted to. They were leaving because they had to. But why did it feel like they were abandoning something important? He thought about the early warning stations Hyunwoo had mentioned. Those systems watched the deep space beyond the galaxy's edge. They looked for threats that most aliens did not believe existed. The Council would probably shut them down within a year. "Jump," he ordered. The stars stretched into lines of light. The human fleet disappeared into hyperspace. Behind them, the galaxy continued its peaceful routine. In the council chamber, aliens were already leaving their seats. The human problem was solved. Now they could focus on more important things like trade agreements and border discussions. Velthari walked slowly through the empty chamber. Her crystal feet clicked on the floor. She felt satisfied, but also strangely empty. Part of her would miss the humans' passionate speeches and wild ideas, but not enough to want them back. Outside, the galaxy turned in its ancient pattern. Stars burned bright in the darkness. Planets orbited in perfect circles. Everything was as it should be. Nothing seemed wrong at all. 6 months had passed since the last human ship disappeared into hyperspace. The galaxy felt different now. Quieter. More peaceful. At least that was what most beings told themselves. Dr. So Young sat in her laboratory on Kepler Station, staring at data files that made no sense. The numbers kept climbing, but nobody wanted to listen. She rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the reports again. Pirate attacks had increased by 300% in the outer systems. Small raids at first, ships going missing, trade convoys vanishing without sending distress calls. The Council's response was always the same. Send a patrol ship to investigate, file a report, move on to the next crisis. But So Young remembered how humans handled pirates. Fast response teams, heavy weapons, no mercy for those who attacked innocent people. The pirates knew humans would hunt them across the galaxy if needed. That fear kept the trade routes safe. Now the fear was gone. She picked up her communication device and called Admiral J. Wan at Council Defense Command. His blue face appeared on her screen, looking tired and stressed. "Dr. So Young," he said with a forced smile. "How can I help you today?" "Admiral, I need you to look at these attack patterns," she said, sending him the data files. Something big is happening in the outer rim. Jaewon's 4 eyes scanned the information quickly. His expression grew more serious. This is concerning, but our patrol fleets are handling the situation. We have protocols for dealing with increased pirate activity. Your protocols are not working, So Young said bluntly. These are not normal pirate attacks. Look at the coordinates. Look at the timing. Someone is testing your defenses. The Admiral's face darkened. Doctor, I appreciate your concern, but military matters are not your area of expertise. The defense fleet knows how to handle pirates. The screen went dark. So, Young stared at her reflection in the black surface. She had tried to warn them, but they would not listen. Just like they had not listened to humans for years. On the other side of the galaxy, something massive moved in the darkness between stars. The Ravager Coalition had been quiet for decades. Most people thought they were extinct or had given up their violent ways. They were wrong. The Coalition was not one species, but dozens, all of them angry, all of them hungry, all of them waiting for the right moment to strike. They had watched humans patrol the galaxy's edge with their powerful warships and fast response fleets. They had waited. Now the humans were gone. Coalition scouts moved through empty space, checking old monitoring stations. The structures floated, dark and silent. Some showed signs of hasty shutdown. Others had been completely abandoned. The early warning networks that humans built were slowly going offline. Back on Nexus Prime, the Council's home world, daily life continued as normal. Markets buzzed with activity. Diplomats discussed trade agreements. Scientists shared research. Everything seemed perfect. Counselor Min Ho walked through the government district, his human features making him stand out among the alien crowds. He was one of the few humans who had chosen to stay and form the Terran Remnant Coalition, a small group representing the humans who could not or would not leave. Min Ho had been trying to get a meeting with the High Council for weeks. His people still had contacts with the departed human fleets. The messages they received were getting more urgent each day. Massive threats were moving in deep space, things that Council sensors could not detect. He finally got his meeting on, a Tuesday morning. The conference room was small and windowless. Only 3 minor counselors attended. They looked bored before he even started talking. Honored counselors, Min Ho began, I bring urgent warnings from the human colonies. Their deep space monitoring systems are detecting large-scale movement in the void beyond our galaxy. Counselor Velthari, who had insisted on attending this meeting, made a dismissive gesture. Mr. Min Ho, humans have been gone for 6 months. Why should we believe they want to help us now? Because the threats are real, Min Ho said firmly. Humans did not build those monitoring stations for fun. They were watching for something specific, something dangerous. Another counselor, a tall being with green skin, leaned forward. What kind of threats? Pirates? Rogue asteroids? We can handle such things. Min Ho shook his head. Much worse. The humans call it the Void Swarm. Ships that come from outside the galaxy. They consume everything in their path. The room fell silent for a moment. Then Velthari began laughing. Her crystal body rang like bells. Void, swarm. This sounds like something from a children's story. Humans always had active imaginations. This is not imagination, Min Ho insisted. My people are sharing classified intelligence. They have been tracking this threat for over a century? A century? The Green Counselor asked. If this threat has existed for so long, where is it? Why have we never seen evidence? Min Ho felt frustration building in his chest. Because humans were keeping it away from inhabited space. Their aggressive expansion was not about conquest. It was about creating a buffer zone, building defenses. The counselors exchanged looks. Velthari stood up from her chair. Mr. Min Ho, this meeting is over. We will not be manipulated by human fear tactics. Your former species made their choice when they left. We made ours when we let them go. Minho gathered his papers with shaking hands. When this threat arrives, and it will arrive, remember this conversation. He left the room knowing he had failed. The council would not listen. They never listened when the truth was uncomfortable. Far away, on the edge of known space, automated sensors detected something moving. The signals were weak and distorted. The monitoring station's computers tried to process the information, but the patterns made no sense. The station sent a routine report to Council Defense Command. The message was filed with thousands of other reports from the frontier. Nobody read it carefully. Nobody noticed that the signatures matched warnings in old human databases. Admiral J. Wan sat in his office reviewing fleet deployment reports. His forces were spread thin across council space. Budget cuts had reduced the number of active ships. Many alien species preferred to spend money on trade and development rather than defense. Humans had always argued for bigger military budgets, more ships, better weapons, stronger defenses. The council had called it warmongering. Now Jaewon wondered if maybe humans had seen something others missed. His communication device chimed. Another pirate attack report, this time near the Bellatrix system. A civilian transport had vanished without a trace. No debris, no distress call, nothing. Jaewon pulled up a star map and marked the location. When he connected it with previous attacks, a pattern emerged. The raids were moving inward toward the heart of council space. Each attack was bolder than the last. He tried calling his patrol commanders, but half of them were already investigating other incidents. The remaining ships were scattered across dozens of systems. Response times were getting longer. Pirate activity was increasing. For the first time in months, Jaewon found himself wishing the humans had stayed. Their response fleets could cross the galaxy in days. Their intelligence networks saw threats before they became problems. Their willingness to use force kept dangerous enemies quiet. But humans were gone now. The Council had chosen peace over security, diplomacy over strength. They believed civilization could survive on good intentions and proper procedures. Deep in space, something ancient and hungry began to stir. It had been waiting patiently while humans watched the void. Now the watchers were gone. The galaxy spun on, peaceful and unaware. Most beings went about their daily lives without fear. They trusted the Council to protect them. They believed the universe was a safe and ordered place. Soon they would learn how wrong they were. The alarm bells on Nexus Prime had been ringing for 6 hours. Emergency broadcasts flooded every communication channel in Council space. The Bellatrix system was gone. Admiral J. Wan stood in the Council Defense Command Center, watching the main display screen with growing horror. Where 12 planets had orbited their star just days ago, there was now only empty space. No debris fields, no radiation signatures, nothing at all. "How is this possible?" asked Counselor Velthari, her crystal body shaking with fear. "An entire star system cannot just disappear." The science officer, a small alien with too many eyes, looked up from his instruments. "The gravitational readings are wrong, Counselor. It is as if the matter was consumed, converted into something else." Jaewon had sent 3 patrol fleets to investigate. The first had arrived to find nothing but cooling space where worlds used to be. The second fleet detected strange energy readings moving toward the next system. The third fleet never reported back at all. Fleet Commander Yu Jin received the emergency orders while her ship was docked at Station Gamma 7. The CNS Harmony was a good ship with a mixed crew of different alien species. They had trained together for years, but nothing could have prepared them for this. "All hands to battle stations," Yu Jin announced over the ship's communication system. "We are moving to intercept an unknown threat." Her tactical officer, a reptilian being named Kess, pulled up star charts on the main screen. Commander, the II fleet is requesting our position and status. Tell them we are 2 hours from the Vega Junction, Yujin replied. If this enemy follows the same path, they will hit the civilian colonies there next. The Harmony jumped to hyperspace along with 40 other Council ships. It was the largest fleet Admiral J1 could assemble on short notice. Every available vessel had been called into service. When they emerged near Vega, Yujin saw something that made her blood freeze. The enemy was already there. Thousands of crystalline ships moved through space like a living thing. They flowed around planets and space stations, touching everything they encountered. Where they passed, matter disappeared. Ships, asteroids, entire moons vanished into the swarm. Open fire, Yujin commanded. The Council fleet unleashed everything they had. Energy beams and particle weapons struck the enemy vessels. The shots should have destroyed dozens of ships. Instead, the crystal hulls absorbed the energy and grew brighter. "Commander!" Kess called out in panic. "Our weapons are feeding them!" Yujin watched in horror as the enemy ships began to change shape. They were learning from each attack, adapting their hulls to resist Council weapons. What had started as thousands of vessels was becoming tens of thousands. The swarm turned toward the Council fleet like a predator noticing prey. Crystal ships broke away from the main group and accelerated toward Yujin's position. They moved impossibly fast, ignoring the laws of physics that governed normal space travel. "All ships retreat," Yujin ordered. "Fall back to the secondary, defense line." But there was no secondary line. There was no tertiary line either. The Council had built their defenses around the idea that enemies would follow rules. They would announce themselves. They would make demands. They would negotiate. The Void Swarm did none of these things. On Nexus Prime, emergency sessions ran through the day and night. Hundreds of counselors argued about response plans. Some wanted to evacuate the outer systems. Others insisted on standing and fighting. A few suggested trying to communicate with the invaders. Dr. So Young sat in the observer gallery, watching alien politicians debate while worlds died. She had tried to warn them months ago, but nobody listened. Now it was almost too late. During a break in the session, she cornered Admiral J1 in the hallway. "Admiral, you need to contact the human fleets immediately." J1 looked exhausted. His blue skin had gone pale from stress and lack of sleep. "Doctor, even if we could reach them, why would humans help us? We expelled them from the Council." "Because that is what humans do," So Young said firmly. "They protect people, even people who reject them." The Admiral shook his head slowly. "Our communication networks cannot reach human space. They took their quantum relay systems when they left. Conventional signals would take months to arrive." So Young grabbed his arm. "Then we need to find another way. I have been studying the attack patterns. This is exactly what human intelligence predicted would happen." She pulled out her datapad and showed him classified files. "Look at these reports. Humans detected the Void Swarm over a century ago. Every aggressive expansion, every military build-up, every rule they broke was preparation for this moment." J1 studied the documents with growing amazement. The human military buildup had not been random warmongering. It was a carefully planned defense against an enemy the Council refused to acknowledge. "They tried to warn us," he whispered. "Every time we complained about human aggression, they were trying to prepare us for this." "Yes," So Young confirmed. "And when the Council would not listen, they left to protect their own people. We chose to ignore the threat, so they chose to save themselves." Back in the command center, reports continued flooding in from across the galaxy. The Void Swarm was not attacking randomly. It was systematic, methodical, intelligent. Each consumed system provided resources for more ships. Each battle taught them new ways to fight. Council fleets tried different tactics: hit-and-run attacks, long-range bombardment, coordinated strikes from multiple directions. Nothing worked. The swarm adapted to every strategy within hours. Worse, they were multiplying. Every ton of matter they consumed became more crystal ships. Every destroyed Council vessel was converted into enemy resources. The swarm was growing exponentially. Fleet Commander Yu Jin watched from her damaged bridge as the last ships of her fleet jumped to hyperspace. They had lost over half their vessels in the past week. The survivors were heading back to Council space with terrible news. The Outer Rim was lost. Everything beyond the Orion Spiral was now under enemy control. Billions of beings had died or disappeared. Hundreds of worlds were gone forever. Eugene communication officer, a young alien named Hex, looked up from his station with tears in his multiple eyes. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the Terran Remnant Coalition." "Put it through," Eugene ordered. Counselor Min-Ho appeared on the screen. Behind him, other humans worked at computer terminals. They looked tired, but determined. "Commander Eugene, this is Min-Ho. We have been monitoring Council communications. Our people in human space are offering assistance." Eugene felt a surge of hope. "What kind of assistance?" "Tactical data about the Void Swarm, weapon designs that can actually hurt them, defensive strategies that might work." Min-Ho paused. "But you need to understand something important. This enemy has been growing in the void for thousands of years. They have been waiting for the right moment to attack." "What changed?" Eugene asked. "Why are they moving now?" Min-Ho's expression grew grim. "Because humans are no longer patrolling the galactic edge. The early warning systems are offline. The rapid response fleets are gone. The Void Swarm knows the galaxy is defenseless." The transmission cut to static as another enemy wave struck the relay station. Eugene stared at the dark screen, finally understanding the full scope of their mistake. Humans had not been warmongers or troublemakers. They had been guardians. They had stood watch at the edge of known space, keeping ancient horrors at bay. The Council had thrown away their best defenders because peace seemed more comfortable than vigilance. Now the bill had come due, and the price was measured in dead worlds. The Sigma Centauri Fortress world had been the pride of Council defense. Massive shield generators covered the planet's surface. Orbital weapons platforms floated in perfect formation around 3 moons. It was supposed to be impossible to destroy. Admiral J1 watched from his command ship as the Void Swarm tore through the defenses like paper. The enemy had learned new tricks from each battle. Now their crystal ships could phase through energy shields and convert defensive weapons into more attackers. "Sir, the planetary shields are failing," reported his communications officer. "We are losing contact with the surface installations." J1 nodded grimly. He had known this moment would come. The swarm was too large, too adaptable, too hungry. Every defense the Council had built was designed to fight civilized enemies. Beings who followed rules and had weaknesses that could be exploited. The Void Swarm followed no rules except consumption. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Prepare for final transmission protocol." His bridge crew looked at him with sad understanding. The final transmission was a last resort. A galaxy-wide distress call on every frequency, asking anyone who could help to please respond. It meant admitting complete defeat. Around the fortress world, the last Council fleets made their final stand. Ships from dozens of species fought side by side, their crews knowing they would not survive. They bought time with their lives, hoping someone somewhere would hear their call. Captain Dong Min sat in the command center of the human colony ship New Horizon, listening to the desperate broadcasts from Council space. The transmission was breaking up from interference, but the message was clear. The galaxy was burning. Around him, other human leaders watched the tactical displays in grim silence. They had built their new colonies far from Council space, protected by the same aggressive defenses the Council had complained about. Ring after ring of early warning stations. Fast attack fleets ready to deploy anywhere. Weapons designed to fight enemies that did not surrender. "Captain," said Commander Haya Jin, now serving as his intelligence officer, "we are receiving detailed tactical reports from the Terran Remnant Coalition. The situation is worse than we thought. She activated the holographic display showing the spread of enemy forces across the galaxy. Over 40% of inhabited systems were already gone. The swarm was moving in coordinated waves, striking multiple targets simultaneously. Look at the attack patterns, Hyojin continued. This is not random destruction. They are following the old trade routes, consuming the most populated systems first. Maximum resource gain for minimum effort. Dongmin studied the display carefully. They are intelligent, patient. They have been planning this for a long time. Another human leader, Admiral Yuna, leaned forward in her chair. The question is, do we help them? The Council expelled us, called us warmongers, voted us out of civilized space. The room fell quiet. It was a fair question. Humans had offered to share their intelligence about the Void Swarm for decades. The Council had dismissed their warnings as fear tactics. When humans built defenses against the coming threat, aliens complained about militarization. Captain Dong Min looked around at his fellow commanders. These men and women had led humanity's exodus from Council space. They had built new colonies from nothing. They had protected their people when no one else would. Dr. So Young is still in Council space, he said quietly, trying to help them understand what they are facing. Thousands of humans chose to stay behind when we left. They are dying right now. Commander Haye Jin pulled up more intelligence reports. Sir, according to our contacts in the Remnant Coalition, the Council is finally listening. They are asking for our tactical data about the swarm. After 18 months of ignoring us, Admiral Yuna said bitterly, now they want our help. Dongmin stood up from his chair and walked to the large viewport. Outside, he could see the defensive platforms that protected the human colonies, massive weapons designed to fight enemies that came from the void, ships built with redundant systems and heavy armor, everything the Council had called excessive and aggressive. We are not doing this for the Council, he said finally. We are doing this because it is right, because people are dying, because this is what humans do. He turned back to face the room. Begin immediate deployment of Task Force Omega. All deep space patrol fleets are to move toward Council territory. Send our tactical databases to anyone who can use them. The orders went out across human space within hours. Hundreds of ships began the long journey toward the war zone. These were not the elegant, peaceful vessels that other species preferred. They were built for battle against impossible odds. In Council space, the emergency broadcasts continued. Admiral J. Wan's final transmission had reached the Outer Rim, where human monitoring stations still operated. The message was simple and desperate. To any ships that can hear this transmission, J1's voice crackled through space. The Galactic Council is under attack by hostile forces. We have lost 60% of inhabited systems. Our fleets are destroyed. We are requesting immediate assistance from anyone able to help. There was a pause, then his voice continued, heavy with emotion. We were wrong about the humans. They tried to warn us. They tried to prepare us. We did not listen. If anyone can reach the human colonies, please tell them we are sorry. Tell them we understand now. The transmission ended in static as the relay station was consumed by crystal ships. Light years away, Dr. So Young worked frantically in her laboratory on Kepler Station. Around her, alien scientists tried to reverse engineer human weapons from abandoned military bases. What they discovered was both amazing and terrifying. Every piece of human military technology was designed to fight the Void Swarm. Particle weapons that disrupted crystal matrices, armor that could not be converted by enemy nanites, shield generators that operated on frequencies the swarm could not adapt to. Humans had been preparing for this war for over a century. How did they know? Asked her assistant, a young alien named Tex. How could humans predict this threat so far in advance? So Young looked up from her analysis of human weapon designs. Because they were watching every expansion into the void. Every deep space patrol, every early warning station. They were not trying to conquer the galaxy. They were trying to protect it. She pulled up classified intelligence files that the Remnant Coalition had shared. The data showed decades of human research into void-based threats, theoretical studies about extragalactic invasions, military exercises designed around fighting adaptive enemies. The Council called it paranoia, So Young continued. Human leaders asking for bigger defense budgets, more weapons, stronger fleets. We thought they were planning for wars that would never come. Tex stared at the data in amazement. They knew this day would arrive. Yes, So Young confirmed. And when the Council refused to prepare, humans made a terrible choice. Stay and die with the galaxy, or leave and save their own people. Outside the laboratory windows, the stars looked peaceful and quiet. But So Young knew that appearance was deceptive. Somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, more swarm ships were probably already moving. This invasion was just the beginning. The fire had started. Soon it would consume everything, unless someone could stop it. Humanity had tried to prevent this disaster. They had been rejected, expelled, cast out for their efforts. Now they were the galaxy's only hope for survival. The irony was bitter. But Dr. So Young took no satisfaction from being right. Too many people had already died. Too many worlds were gone forever. All that mattered now was stopping the fire before it spread beyond control. 18 months after the Void Swarm first appeared, the war was finally over. The galaxy looked very different now. Where once there had been thousands of inhabited systems, only 600 remained. Entire sectors were empty space, consumed, by an enemy that turned matter itself into weapons. Counselor Minho stood in the ruins of the Nexus Prime Council chamber. The great domed ceiling was cracked open to the sky. Twisted metal beams hung down like broken bones. The seats where hundreds of alien representatives once debated were now melted slag. He held a communication device in his hands, preparing to deliver humanity's response to the Council's request for aid. The surviving alien governments had spent weeks drafting their message. They begged for help. They promised to change their ways. They admitted they had been wrong about everything. The human response was shorter than expected. To the survivors of the Galactic Council, Minho read from the prepared statement. Humanity accepts your request for humanitarian assistance. We will provide medical aid, food supplies, and temporary shelter for all refugees regardless of species or past conflicts. He paused, looking around the destroyed chamber. However, there will be no return to the old ways of governing. The galaxy has learned a hard lesson about the cost of ignoring uncomfortable truths. The message continued with specific terms. Humans would lead the rebuilding effort. All defense decisions would be based on evidence, not political convenience. Every species would contribute to military preparedness. The early warning systems would be rebuilt and maintained properly. Most importantly, no warnings about potential threats would ever be dismissed again. Dr. So Young sat in a temporary medical facility on Kepler Station, treating refugees from across the galaxy. Aliens who had lost everything sat quietly in waiting areas, their eyes still showing the shock of survival. Many had watched their home worlds disappear into crystal ships. Others had seen their families consumed by the swarm. She worked alongside human medical teams who had arrived with the relief fleets. The volunteers asked no questions about politics or past grievances. They simply helped anyone who needed it. That was the human way. Doctor, called her assistant Tex, who had somehow survived the destruction of 3 different space stations. We have a priority patient incoming, Fleet Commander Eugene. So Young looked up from her current patient. Eugene had been one of the few Council military leaders to survive the war. Her ship had been badly damaged in the final battles, but she had managed to save most of her crew. When Eugene arrived, she was walking with the help of mechanical supports. Her uniform was burned and torn. but her eyes were alert and determined. "Commander," So Young said gently, "you should be resting. Your injuries are serious." Yujin shook her head stubbornly. "Doctor, I need to speak with Captain Dongmin." "Is he still in the system?" "Yes, his flagship is maintaining position near the orbital docks." "Why?" The alien commander sat down carefully in a chair. "Because I want to volunteer for the new Joint Fleet Command. My crew and I have experience fighting the swarm. We know their tactics." So Young was surprised. Yujin was one of the highest-ranking council officers to survive. She could probably demand a comfortable position in whatever government emerged from the chaos. Instead, she wanted to serve under human military command. "The new command structure will be very different," So Young warned. "Humans do things their own way, more aggressive, less concerned with diplomatic niceties." Yujin smiled grimly. "Doctor, I have seen what diplomatic niceties accomplish against real threats. I prefer the human approach." Across the system, Captain Dongmin worked with a team of engineers to establish the new Galactic Defense Network. The old Council monitoring stations had been destroyed or abandoned. The early warning systems that humans had spent decades building were offline. Everything had to be rebuilt from scratch. "Sir," reported Commander Hyojin, "the first batch of new sensor arrays is ready for deployment. Where should we position them?" Dongmin studied the tactical display showing what remained of the galaxy. "Same places we had them before, the void between galaxies, deep space patrol routes, anywhere something could approach without being seen." The new stations were different from the old ones. They were heavily armed and shielded. They could defend themselves if attacked. Most importantly, they were designed to be maintained by mixed crews of humans and aliens working together. Admiral Yuna arrived from the outer colonies with a convoy of supply ships. Her vessels carried everything needed to rebuild civilization: medical equipment, construction materials, weapons and defensive systems, food and water for millions of refugees. "Captain," she reported to Dongmin, "the Joint Administration Council is asking for your recommendation on the Centauri sector. Should we attempt to resettle the empty systems?" Dongmin considered the question carefully. The Centauri sector had been completely consumed by the swarm. Dozens of worlds were simply gone. But the space was strategically important for defending the inner systems. "Yes," he decided, "but we do it properly this time. Heavy fortifications on every world, multiple backup communication systems, rapid response fleet stationed throughout the sector." Admiral Yuna nodded. "The alien representatives are concerned about the cost. They say we are being too aggressive again. Then they can review the casualty reports from the last 18 months, Dongmin replied sharply. 40% of the galaxy is dead because we were not aggressive enough." He walked to the viewport and looked out at the refugee ships filling the orbital space around Kepler Station. Thousands of vessels from hundreds of different species, all of them dependent on human protection now. "We tried to warn them," he said quietly. "We tried to prepare them. They called us warmongers and expelled us from their council." Yuna joined him at the window. "Do you regret coming back to help them?" Dongmin was quiet for a long moment. "No," he said finally. "Because this is who we are. We protect people. Even people who reject us. Even people who call us monsters." He turned back to his command staff. "Send word to all human colony fleets. Full mobilization of defensive forces. I want monitoring stations at every jump point. Armed patrols in every system. Early warning networks covering the entire galactic rim." "Sir," asked Hyojin, "what about the political objections? Some aliens are already complaining about human militarization again." Dongmin's expression hardened. "Then they are welcome to defend themselves. But I will not watch another 40 billion beings die because politicians find military preparedness inconvenient." The new galaxy that emerged from the ashes was smaller and scarred. But it was also wiser. The Joint Human Council Administration operated on principles that would have been unthinkable before the war. evidence-based decision-making, mandatory defense contributions from all member species, immediate investigation of any potential threats. Most importantly, no one questioned the need for strong defenses anymore. Fleet Commander Hai Jin, now promoted to Admiral of Deep Space Operations, stood on the bridge of the new monitoring station at Galaxy's Edge. Around her, human and alien crew members worked side by side, watching for threats from the void. The sensors were more advanced than anything the old Council had possessed. They could detect movement across vast distances. They could analyze threat patterns and predict attack routes. They could send warnings faster than any enemy could travel. "Admiral," reported her scan operator, an alien whose species had barely survived the war. "Deep space sensors are showing normal readings. No hostile contacts." Hai Jin nodded, but did not relax. She had learned from human military doctrine that the most dangerous enemies were the ones you could not see coming. Vigilance was the price of survival. The galaxy turned in its ancient pattern, smaller now but still alive. In the darkness between stars, new monitoring stations kept watch. Human and alien crews worked together, united by shared loss and common purpose. They would never again dismiss warnings about threats from the void. They would never again trust that peace could be maintained without strength. They had paid too high a price for such comfortable illusions. The fire was out, but the watchers remained alert. Because somewhere in the darkness beyond known space, other enemies might be stirring, and this time the galaxy would be ready.